Hey, I think you dropped your keys. A Hyundai? Ugh. What's wrong with the Hyundai?
When you think of Hyundai as a whole, you'd probably think of some crappy economy car made out of cheap plastic. But in recent years, the Koreans have come out with models like the elegant Genesis G90, sporty Kia Stinger, the high-performing Hyundai Veloster N, and the technological powerhouse, the new Hyundai Sonata with Smart Pack. And with more intriguing offerings like the new Elantra, Palisade, Kia K5, and much more, Hyundai Kia Genesis went from being the underdogs to arguably being class leaders in their respective segment.
And what if I told you that the Hyundai Azera we have here today is one of the first premium cars that the Koreans started making when they revolutionized their lineups, but somehow nobody paid attention to this particular model until it was too late. The Azera was the first warning sign of the comprehensive overhaul of the Hyundai brand. Unfortunately, it was laid to rest after the 2017 model year, at least in North America, but its death led to life of all the other cars previously mentioned, making this the Paul Revere of the automotive industry.
Let's go over some quick specs for the Azera. Under the hood is a 3.3-liter V6 with direct injection. It makes 293 horsepower and revs to around 6,700 RPM. MPG is 20 in the city and 29 on the highway. Its only transmission is a 6-speed auto with the option for manual shifting. 0 to 60 is in the 6-second range, making it quick for such a big car. Standard is blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert. It can be optioned to include lane departure warning and rear parking sensors on the limited trim. Probably the best feature of this car on the used market is that you can still find many with warranty.
Overall, the car doesn't look like a traditional cheap Korean car, as this has chrome almost everywhere you look. But if you look at it from the front end, it has a similar face to the Sonata of past generations. The grills are almost identical. But thankfully you can buy the grille from the Hyundai Grand Door, its Korean counterpart. The Grand Door grille definitely looks more sophisticated, and I don't know why they just didn't include it for the Azera in North America. And if you want to go all out, you can buy a body kit from Korea that will make this thing stand out.
Alright, so in traditional cars of sedans, they have their roof lines where they notch down. And as here in the Azera, it's more of a sloping roof line where it goes continuously down.
When looking at this Azera from the exterior, you can't help but notice the 10-spoke wheels on the base model. Yes, they are only 18 inches, but in our opinion, they look much better than the larger 19-inch wheels on the limited trim. Another standout feature is the headlights. The main headlights aren't LED, but the daytime running lights are. The shape of the daytime running lights are unique to this car, which helps identify it from far away at night. The taillights also look very upscale with clusters of LEDs on each side and a connecting reflector strip in the middle. Now, this is a full-size sedan, making it bigger than most cars on the road. But compared to competitors in the segment, the Azera is several inches shorter in overall length. Despite this, interior room is ample and the Azera feels a little bit more spacious than most mid-size sedans. Trunk room is also great and can easily accommodate a whole ass person if you're into that kind of stuff. If I'm being honest, this has more space for groceries than my mom's Pathfinder, making the Azera a perfectly sized family car. Here on the interior, you are surrounded with a good amount of tech. In the gauge cluster, you are greeted with a nice 7-inch LCD display that tells you loads of information including a digital speedo, interactive compass, your audio source, lane departure warning if equipped, maintenance reminders, and more.
Apple CarPlay and Android Auto come standard and support navigation through Apple Maps, Google Maps, and other third-party applications. The head unit is a 8-inch display that features navigation and other cool apps. Standard is the Infinity surround sound system with 10 speakers. Sounds pretty nice, not as good as some other audio systems in some of the German cars, but Hyundai's premium sound system sounds good for what they are.
So when you go ahead and click exit, it takes you back to your Hyundai OS. Here on the left we do have your maps and your navigation, and on the right you have primarily your audio source and also the other apps. So when this was refreshed in 2015, Hyundai switched to a more app-oriented infotainment system. So here, basically like a whole bunch of apps, you scroll much like a tablet. You have your settings, voice commands, climate, a bunch of other stuff. You even have SoundHound, which can tell you what song is playing on the radio. Here we have Hyundai's old navigation system. So when this was updated in 2015 again, they also updated the navigation and the map. For today's standards, it has most of the addresses and everything, but as you can see, it's not as responsive and intuitive as modern systems today. So if it were me, I would just use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto for your navigation. So as for seating and comfort, here, instead of having your traditional power seat controls on the bottom near your leg, it does have it up here near the top, near the mirrors, much like a Mercedes-Benz. So this is a memory seat option. So you can of course set it, and you can have two settings for two people, and you can move it. And the driver's seat does come with thigh support, which extends the area for your thighs. Here for your seat controls and your comfort, here right behind the shifter is your heated and ventilated seats. They're 3-way for each, and honestly, in a place like Texas where it gets well over 100 in the summer months, even in spring sometimes, ventilated seats go a long way in cooling your. Down here we do have your you have your power sunshade for the rear seats and your parking sensors, and they are only available on the limited trim. For the legroom in the Hyundai Azera, here we have Jared, who is around 6'2". As you can see, he fits perfectly fine. If you're damn well over 6 feet tall, you will fit excellent here in this Hyundai Azera, as it is a large full-size sedan. As you can see, the steering wheel is power tilt and telescoping, which is a nice feature. Here in the back seat, with the seat all the way back, you still have legroom at 6'2". You adjust it a little bit and you have tons of legroom. Optional is also the panoramic sunroof on the limited trim. You also get your manual sunshades on the side windows and the power sunshade in the back. Here going over some quick features. Of course, you do have your backup camera. You have heated seats in the back, air conditioning in the back center console with an AC plug. You also have a folding armrest in the center with cup holders. You do have an AC plug under the front center console underneath the touchscreen. You do have your BlueLink mirror with SOS and ability to call first responders. Here's a look of your key fob. You do have your rear cross traffic alert. And last but not least, here are the LED dome lights for the interior. Yo, are we flying?
It feels like it. Feels like we're in a Boeing.
Must be the suspension?
Yeah, feels.
Well, Jared, what are your first impressions on the car?
Well, the ride quality is pretty well. It's no Rolls Royce or anything. It's not a German vehicle, but it does soak up the bumps very well. And as for these roads are pretty rough, and it did a pretty good job soaking up those bumps. You hardly feel the bumps coming from the road. You don't hear any road noise from this great insulation that they did. Overall, it's a good ride.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the Nappa leather seats that are heated and cooled. You can basically use this car all year round, no problem. The comfort is definitely good, as it is a big car, and you would associate big cars with being comfortable.
Yes, as you were saying about these seats are phenomenal. These are very well built. I get great back support. The heated and cooled option is phenomenal, especially right now in the summer where it's really hot out. It keeps really cold. As for the steering, it's not to my standards. It is pretty vague, but it is not a lot of feedback from the front tires. The steering is very light despite it being hydraulically assisted, and it's no sports car. I wish there was more feedback. It just feels very vague and empty. I don't really know where the steering wheel is steering to.
Yeah, if this car has any faults, steering is definitely one of them. When I started to learn how to drive, I kind of had a hard time parking because I didn't know exactly where the front tires were in relation to the steering wheel. But you do get used to it after a while, and with that being said, you can definitely tell that steering was definitely engineered more for comfort rather than for road feel. But that's not really a bad thing considering it is a family car.
And a quick message from our sponsor today. Oh,
we're not sponsored, are we?
No, we're not.
Not yet. Now, for power, this does have a V6 with 293 horsepower, and it's quite good. 293 horsepower is definitely a lot for regular driving, considering most sedans nowadays use turbo 4s with a lot less power. You're not going to win any races at a stoplight or anything, but you do have enough power to accelerate past other cars on the highway with ease. This, as a daily driver, has more than enough power to get you where you're going.
And if you're wondering about visibility, it is pretty great, actually, because it is a big size vehicle. But the things where you do suffer is in the quarter windows. If you're having people sitting in the back seats, the quarter windows will get covered. But you do have a counter option for that, which is your blind spot monitoring. But overall, the view is a full 360 fishbowl, and you can see everything pretty well.
And if you're looking for even more visibility out the back, make sure you go and subscribe to my main channel, GozBrian, where I reviewed a product that will give you basically limitless visibility out the back. Link in the description to my channel and the product link on Amazon. And the brakes on the Azera are a bit touchy. My mom got in and drove it for a while, and she said the brakes were very light. You barely touch it and it starts braking immediately. But as a daily driver, you get used to it, and after a few stops, you'll forget about it entirely. With all that being said, should you buy one? Well, if you are in the market for a premium car with a lot of safety features, good reliability, and still under warranty, the Hyundai Azera is a great choice. Today, the average person spends $36,000 and up on a new car. This Hyundai Azera can be found for well under $20,000 thanks to depreciation. As the market saw an increase in SUVs and crossovers, sedans, especially the full-size ones, saw a drastic decrease in sales in the US. The Azera has little to no flaws, yet nobody bought them new. They aren't necessarily rare, but you will see a lot less of these than your run-of-the-mill Sonata, Accord, or Camry. As this car was refreshed for 2015, many of the features you see on this 2017 are found on those couple of years earlier, and can even be upgraded to include Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Another car with similar features will run you a few thousand more and will more than likely have higher mileage. They are also very cheap to maintain. In the 2+ years of having it, the only thing that had to be replaced was a tire, and that was only because my dad ran over a nail or something. And if anything major were to break, you are still covered with Hyundai's 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The Hyundai Azera failed not because it was a bad car, but because of a change in consumer preference. But as it died, it laid the foundations for a more upscale brand overhaul and sacrificed itself so other cars like the Veloster N, the new Sonata, or Kia Stinger could see the light of day. Join us next time where we review Jared's Hyundai Veloster Turbo. Is the Veloster the best, quirkiest, and fun little hatchback on the used market? Find out next time on the Automotive Hustle. That's definitely going in the video.